this episode of How to Really Run a City, powered by Accelerator for America, the nation's leading do tank for cities. I'm Larry Platt of the Philadelphia Citizen, a nonprofit, nonpartisan media organization that seeks to reinvigorate democracy in the American city where it was born. Check us out at thephiladelphiacitizen.org. How to Really Run a City features two accomplished practitioners of the art of urban changemaking, former two-term Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed and former two-term Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter. If you've listened to past episodes, you know the drill. If you're frustrated by all the bickering and chaos coming from Washington, D.C., well, this podcast is a testament to the notion that there are really three political parties in America: Democrats, Republicans, and mayors who have no choice but to be practical problem solvers. In today's episode, Mayor Nutter is off living his best life, so Mayor Reed is fortunate to be joined by a familiar friend of the podcast, Scranton Mayor Paige Cognetti. We'll be joined by Riverside, California Mayor Patricia Lock Dawson. But first, let's check in with our mayors. And let's note that Mayor Cognetti joins us in the wake of another successful electoral win. 75% of the vote.
Yeah, we have a Republican challenger in November, so we shouldn't roll the champion song until 8 p.m. on November 4th. But I got 64% of the vote all total that day, including my opponent and the two Republicans. So I think it's just pretty overwhelming that people like what they see, that what we've been doing, running things well in Scranton, being efficient with taxpayer dollars, doing the right thing every day. That's the biggest thing, especially in the face of the person who challenged me last Tuesday, somebody who had really overseen allowed corruption when he was at the school district and in other places. So people don't want that back. They don't. It's just people want their tax dollars to be spent wisely. They want to be proud of their city, and we feel good about what happened Tuesday.
This is how many elections in 5 years for you?
I was number 4, and then in November will be number 5 since the special election in 2019. So yeah, Pennsylvania, we have partisan municipal elections. That is not the case in every state. I would love to not have to have that. Once it's all said and done and you've put in the work and you've raised the money, it can be positive that you've been able to talk to so many people. However, I'm also the mayor, and having a full year where I'm running a campaign and running the city it's taxing, and I'm not sure it's the best method of doing this.
Mayor Reed, how about that? She's always running.
I love it. I just like the name Mayor Easy Work. That's what she makes. You didn't even need a water break. I love it.
Oh man, that's fun though. It
was amazing last night because I was up watching the new mission, the final Mission Impossible. You got to go see it. It was unbelievable.
All right, that's a good idea. I can do that now. I could do that.
I saw you in that movie, Mayor. I think you had a cameo in that too. Save the world from AI gone wrong.
Oh my God, I love it.
That's awesome. And by the way, on election day, I know you, Mayor, were not necessarily front and center. For those of us who saw you show up to the polls to vote, the real star of that show was someone named Sloan Cognetti.
That's right.
Who was that?
Sloan. So Sloan, who was in my belly when I was campaigning in 2019, and I had her just 2 weeks before inauguration. So she is forever the deputy mayor, has been with me on this journey the whole time. And at 5.5, she and her friends at school finally are starting to understand what it means to be mayor. And it is kind of fun to see that spark in her and her friends. But she also can really get on my case. So I said the other day, I think it was election day, I said something about, I wasn't sure about something. And she said, what? Mayor Cognetti doesn't know anything? And I said, well, there's a lot of people saying that right now, but we'll see how things go tonight.
That's awesome. Mayor Reed, I wanted to ask you, in Mayor Cognetti's win and in some other wins across the country, Maddie Parker in Fort Worth, a Republican who's been with us before, won re-election earlier this month. Is there a sort of lesson that we can take from these sort of practical politicians who are focused on delivering outcomes and not getting into the chaos and not being distracted by the chaos coming from DC?
Larry, I think folks elect you to win for them. And that's what I feel. I think that we're in a time and place right now where local government means more than ever. It makes more sense to people than ever. It really is the constant reminder of normalcy for Americans. And that's what I see in mayoral elections across the country. Because of what's going on at the national level, because you don't feel that you have really control of the chaos, you do see and feel and touch your mayor. And so I think mayors are actually becoming more important than ever, because they still allow for robust local engagement. And that's what I see in the mayoral elections across the country under the leadership of mayors like Mayor Paige.
That's great. Do you have thoughts on that, Mayor Cognetti, before we get to our guest?
Well, they're not national issues, right? These are local issues. And, we can certainly talk about, and I'm sure we will talk with Mayor Dawson as well, about the impacts of some of the federal policies on our cities. But when it comes to what you're talking about when you are the mayor and running for mayor, you're talking about the economy, you're talking about what it's like to be a family trying to make it, being a small business trying to make it. There are impacts from those macro things, be they macroeconomic factors or the federal government's business policies. But at the end of the day, those are local issues and you're dealing with them in real time. You don't have to talk about those other things and why it is what it is. You're just talking about the solutions. And it's really important to stay focused on those. And you're not talking about the social issues. You're not talking about the messaging bills that happen at the state level or even at the federal level. We don't have to do that stuff in our cities, which is a relief, to be honest. We don't have to waste our time with those things. We can just focus on the issues at hand. We don't have to talk about culture wars and things like that. We just talk about how we're going to make living in our cities better and better for our kids and for businesses to thrive.
Yeah, you just reminded me of the late founding chairman of the Citizen, the civic innovator, Jeremy Nowak, had a great saying, which was, "The future belongs to the problem solvers." And that's been put to the test a lot when you watch the news every day.
Yes.
But I think you're both right. And there were green shoots of encouragement from mayoral elections across the country, and that's a nice transition to get to our guest. And I should say that I should acknowledge the fact that Mayor Nutter is off living the lifestyle of the rich and famous today. He can't be with us, but he's ably filled in for by Mayor Cognetti. In fact, we may not want him back after this star turn. He may have lost his gig. But this is a great transition to Riverside, California Mayor Patricia Lock Dawson. She was elected Riverside's 18th mayor in 2020. The second woman to be elected to Riverside's only citywide office in its 150-year history, and also has an extensive record of service in Riverside. Served 3 political appointments under 2 very well-known governors, alongside serving in every level of government prior to being mayor of Riverside. And a great personal story as well. Please, let's welcome to the podcast Mayor Patricia Lock Dawson.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi, Mayor.
Great to see you now.
Yeah.
Paige, hello.
Hi, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you very much. Yeah, we had a big night on Tuesday, thankfully, and feels good to have a little bit of a weekend coming up.
Yeah, right. And it's not all campaign all the time, which I think is always what you're embroiled in when something's going on. So I know, but congratulations and hello, Mayor Reed. Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
Good
Good.
to see you.
Good.
And Mayor, I want to jump right in if we can. It's really interesting having 2 outstanding women leaders. For folks that listen to our podcast who either want to be in government or in government right now, give us insight and tell us, is there any difference to running and winning as a woman, given that you're only the second woman mayor in the 150-year history of your town?
I will mention I'm the first woman to actually be in 2 terms. the first woman mayor only
Okay.
lasted 1 term. So
Yeah.
that'll tell you something right there, right? So I mean, I don't know what Paige wants to jump into, but I mean, I'll just give you an example. One, I think a lot of times you're not seen as being qualified, or you don't have what it takes to be mayor. And there's lots of code language that goes into that. Like, I just don't think you have the right experience, despite being in office, or, this is my 15th year in office, and, having been in government for 25 years. The other thing is, does she really know what she's, doing, this kind of business, which is all code language. So, and I think you have to, for me, it's been a very practiced strategy to walk the line of being decisive, but approachable. There's all these very nuanced ways people judge women that I think men don't get. I don't know, Paige, do you want to add to that?
I agree. That's how I talk about it too. It's the nuances, the subtle things that we notice coming off of an election where the city party chair ran against me, being the 3rd in a row city party person to run against me. I think we see that there will always be a challenge. Gender is only part of it, sure, but I do think that gender matters. I think we saw the results on Tuesday of like our success, our record, what our administration has been able to do. I am not sure if I was a man with that record of success that I would have been challenged on Tuesday. Happy to have it in the rearview mirror, happy that it happened, because it's always great to tell our story and have a reason to raise that money, spend that money, and tell the story even more widely. But I'm not sure if I were the same person with the same record but different gender, that would have happened.
We're going to take a break from this riveting conversation with Mayor Lock Dawson to check in with our partner, Accelerator for America.
I'm Mary Ellen Wiederwohl, the president and CEO of Accelerator for America. During prior episodes of this podcast, I have highlighted AFA's work with our National Housing Crisis Task Force, producing replicable and scalable solutions for local leaders working to solve the national housing crisis in their own backyards. And so it is apropos that today I get to highlight one of the new innovative tools in the task force's state and local housing action plan, focused on how to build and run a housing command center. As our great friend, Mayor Patricia Lock Dawson, is joining the show today to talk about housing and homelessness in her city of Riverside, California. Accelerator for America has a partnership with Riverside, providing technical assistance and developing an investment playbook that is leveraging Riverside's strengths to create new jobs and support inclusive economic growth. We're excited to continue working with them. Today, I want to focus on how cities can use disaster response and emergency management practices as a model for responding to homelessness in their communities. A housing or homeless command center is exactly what it sounds like. It is a structure by which cities can enhance coordination across multiple organizations to address an unhoused person's specific needs and provide housing as quickly as possible. Command centers bring together outreach workers, local government, private landlords, and social service providers under the shared mission to prioritize housing individuals as quickly as possible, using a housing-first approach. Housing provides a baseline of stability for unhoused individuals that social service providers and others can build upon through access to behavioral health, substance abuse, employment, or other services, with the ultimate goal of finding individuals permanent housing. Have I piqued your interest? You can learn more about housing command centers and check out the other tools in the state and local housing action plan at nationalhousingcrisis.org.
Thanks, Mary Ellen and Accelerator for America. And now back to the show.
I'd say I feel like I'm having a real learning moment just sitting here listening to you. I think I'm going to be a better dad to my daughter.
Oh.
I'm going to tell her that I was with 2 women mayors today.
Well, your daughter's lucky to have you.
So tell us about what it was like working with the 2 different governors that you worked with. You worked with Governor Brown and you worked with Governor Schwarzenegger, two very different styles. What
I
was it
did.
like? And tell me how it developed you as a leader.
Well, I think I've always tried to balance the needs of my constituency and folks that I'm, serving. And so I was appointed to serve in the Schwarzenegger administration. And then I was reappointed by Governor Brown. And I was one of the few who had that happen. Many of the Schwarzenegger appointees were let go, and I was kept on for the Brown. And then Brown reappointed me. So I was 3 times. Very different styles, and I think I meshed with it because they were both trying to just be very practical and pragmatic, and that's how I would describe my governing style, is just being very pragmatic, focusing on problems, not partisanship, ideas, not ideology, just trying to make sure you're focusing on getting things done. So yeah, we meshed very well that way, I guess I would say.
That's interesting. And by the way, the position that you held, was that the Board of Behavioral Sciences?
Board of Behavioral Sciences. And I think I'll tell you what I think the biggest difference was my Senate confirmation process. Under Schwarzenegger, it was a fairly sort of, what do I want to say, just pro forma kind of thing. You kind of went through it. And Brown, it was not. Brown, the Brown administration, it was a very difficult process where I had to answer a lot of tough questions, and I was, called on certain things. So that was the main difference that I can tell you. But other than that, serving people.
Helped gear you up to run for mayor, though, right? Because you have those types of processes that helps you understand what it is like when somebody's asking you every question about everything in your background. I had to get my security clearance at the federal government, and then I actually had to get it again just a couple of years ago to an appointment to a board under President Biden. And yeah, if you can go through that process, I feel like running for office is simple.
Yeah, it was, but that was a big difference. But I'm very passionate about mental health, so that was also an easy thing for me to just focus on the work of that board. So, which I did, and trying to reach groups within our state that may have had cultural barriers and physical barriers to accessing mental health. So focusing on that, I think and as a mom of 3 kids who were in school at the time, it was important for me to ensure that there was access to mental health. And I will say this, I used that to get, I was simultaneously serving on our school district board of trustees, and I brought the resources that I had at my disposal within the Board of Behavioral Sciences over to the school district. And I'm proud to say that there are several programs that I launched there that are still going and have expanded to help the mental health of our high school students. So.
That's interesting that you both have that school board experience behind you. That's also a good training ground. Mayor Lock Dawson, talk to us about the way that you were positioning Riverside as a clean and green technology hub, because that seems to me, you mentioned being a pragmatic progressive, that seems to me like emblematic of what we're talking about.
I think it's an economic development issue. I think, look at, okay, like this is the good comparison we're doing right now is between us and China with green technology, EVs. This is the future of transportation, right? And I'm not just EVs, but low emission vehicles as well. Hydrogen fuel cell. There's lots of different technologies out there. But I've said this, and I want us to be the next car manufacturing capital of the world, and we are. In this past year, we've attracted 4 new manufacturers to our city with their global headquarters here for manufacturing. So I've got a company called Omeo, which does autonomous electric vehicles. They came from New Zealand. They set up their manufacturing headquarters here. We have a company called Voltu. They do electric trucks, light duty trucks. We have a hydrogen train manufacturer that is setting up its headquarters here. It's Hyundai Rotem. And then a electric school bus manufacturer, or not just school buses, I guess it's all types of buses and transportation, called Green Power. They took 6 of their facilities and consolidated them here into Riverside. That's just in the last year and a half. We landed all those, and we're continuing. We're in talks with other companies. And I will say the reason for that success, 1 is Riverside's open for business, but 2, we have a University of California campus here, UCR, which is an R1 research institution that focuses on engineering and emissions testing. We have the California Air Resources Board, which is arguably the international standard for emissions and vehicles. And then we've got me and my government here who's supporting these things. So there's 3 things there. You have industry, academics, and government all working in tandem. That creates a very fertile ground for the growth of those types of related industries. That's a long answer, Larry. I'm sorry, but I'm very excited about it. I'll talk about that forever.
A lot of impressive information. I had no idea.
So how you explained some of it. What about the workforce element there? They'll be doing the manufacturing there? Is the workforce? There must be something else that you're working on as well, right?
Yes, actually, that's a really good question. That's the first question we get asked by these companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to have access to talent? And it needs talent at all levels, skilled labor, engineering, admin. So we have 3 universities in our city and 1 just outside the city, and we have an award-winning community college. So our community college is training up skilled labor, getting people ready. We've got our universities are doing more engineering. So we've had, at any given time in our city, we have 60,000 students here in Riverside. So there's no shortage of talent.
Mayor Reed, I want to be sensitive to your time. You have a hard out in a few minutes. So do you want to make and we can continue and stitch back to your final.
Fun. I'm just enjoying this so much. What do you have? What are you passionate about right now? So I understand your overall vision, but what's making you most excited and enthusiastic right now?
It's my it's makeup of my council and my city manager and our public we're all rowing in the same direction right now. That is so delightful because it's an amazing what you can get done when you've got shared goals and a shared vision. And I think part of that is just being enthusiastic and, like I said, focusing ideas, not ideologies. We have a very mixed council with respect to parties.
What size is it?
7 council members, and they're all elected by ward. And then I'm the only citywide elected person. So, but unlike Paige, we are not supposed to be partisan. All of our offices are nonpartisan. But of course, in fact, it doesn't work that way, right? People like to partisan you up no matter what you're doing. So, but we reject that as a council and administration. We are embracing just focusing on shared goals, and that's why we're able to get so much done right now. It's fun. It's fun, Mayor Reed. It is fun.
Are you happy?
Yeah, it is. We get a lot done.
Go ahead, Paige.
So not so fun is some of the news coming out of Washington about certain cuts and things like that. And the reconciliation bill came out, I think, on my election night or since, and I haven't taken a huge deep dive into it. But given how much the green infrastructure pieces are a part of your success, how are you approaching that? And are you advocating to keep some of those programs and things like that, or do you think that the hydrogen train, some of that stuff can keep going without the support of the federal government in the way that it had been there before?
It's a challenge for sure, Paige. I mean, it is. In fact, I'm on the California Air Resources Board, which we set all the standards and the regulations. We were in our meeting yesterday, and the news came out that the Senate had voted to overturn all of our regulatory authority, our waivers for, ensuring that we had clean car goals. We're supposed to have a phase out of all gasoline powered vehicles by 2036. And now it's sort of like, okay, now what do we do, right? We don't have that mandate. But I will say I feel positive about the direction that California is taking, in that I don't think we're going to let that stop us, right? We'll find our way forward. And in fact, Governor Newsom had a press conference yesterday afternoon to that end, just that regardless of what's going on there, we're going to just keep fighting and keep moving in that direction.
That's great. And important for those businesses that have invested so much. And that's, I think, a difference between California and so many other states, right? Is you guys can, you have the economic power to probably get through some of those barriers that other states might have more difficulty with.
And, that's a good point too. One of the ways we made the companies feel, we put skin in the game, like these autonomous shuttles. We've, essentially purchased some of them and employed them or deployed them in our transit authority. So they'll be in use. So we're showing good faith on our part. And the electric truck manufacturer, we're purchasing, I think, 10 of their trucks for our fleet, 10 or 20 of their trucks for our fleet. And we're putting them into our fleet and we're going towards an all zero emission fleet. So that tells them, we're on your side too. We're here. We're investing too.
I want to ask all three of you one final question, which is, I periodically go over to the home of former legendary mayor and governor Ed Rendell in Pennsylvania. We watch sports together because we're both fanatics. But I asked him, this is pretty recent, I asked him, what is the most important quality for a mayor on a practical level to get stuff done? And he said, never take the answer no from your own bureaucracy. He said that was the most important lesson from his 8 terms as mayor and then 8 terms as governor. Does that ring true? Do you have to fight with the inertia of your own government to actually will these great things that we're talking about into reality?
I think Mayor Reed has to answer that first because he's not in office.
You see what she did there, Mayor Reed? Do you see what she did there?
I know when I'm around talent. I think the mayor's superpower is empathy. When you have the job of mayor, you should be the center of action and the center force for good. And so you have to maintain the feeling of your citizens so that you can be motivated every day to do what's best for the most of them. And I think that comes from feeling what they feel, whether that's them being afraid, whether them they need a job, whether you want to make sure that their property values are maintained. All of these are what regular folks feel. It's the part of the city that touches them the most. It's the woman that when I was campaigning and I was talking about us having the busiest airport on earth and all of that, and the park across the street from her was boarded up and there was no water in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So I think there's that empathy. She could care less that Atlanta had the 3rd largest concentration of Fortune 500 companies. Had nothing to do with her. And so I think our superpower is maintaining that feeling and wanting to do something about it.
I love that. That's so true. I'm sure Paige agrees with that. To me, it's my thing is we're so close. We're so close to the issues here at Paige. You kind of were referencing that in our pre-call, but just this, we're living it every day. We're living here. We're in the grocery store. You're at Target. You're at wherever you're being approached and talked to, and you see it, and you can't ever lose just what Mayor Reed said, you can't ever lose that feeling of being a constituent yourself and what you care about, right? So I think that's a big thing. And you can't listen to anybody telling you how great or fancy you are. You just can't do it. You got to just
Always be skeptical of that.
yeah, always be skeptical of that. Because you know what? Tomorrow you're out of office. Well, Mayor, maybe not Mayor Reed, but you're not not all that anymore.
No, and I think that for Governor Rendell's point, never leave it at no. I mean, the change that we have made over the course of 5.5 years has not come without conversations and months at a time of going back and forth and getting to yes. Also getting to different changes that had to be made in order to get to a yes, right? These things take time, and there's lots of things, lots of bureaucracy, different contracts and things that have to expire before you can move on to the next one. So I always think that patience is really important, because some of these things just take time. And somebody will ask, well, why didn't you do this? And you say, well, I only have a new board seat on this authority every year, right? It took me 5 years to remake our housing authority board, right? These things take time by nature. It can be good, it can be bad. My mom is always, DeJoy, who ran the Postal Service, she was so mad that Biden hadn't fired him. And I said, Mom, he can't do that. It's a board appointment, right? It's not just at the local level, right? We have that at the federal level too. Well, maybe not anymore, but the patience is so important, in addition to the empathy, not taking no, and making sure that you're always ready for those questions at the grocery store.
Yes.
And
That's
also forgot to mention Grace. She's very gracious, and I think that's important too.
Especially in these times, it feels like treating people with dignity and respect is it used to be commonplace. Now it's like, oh wow. So the other thing I lied. There was one question that I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, Mayor Lock Dawson, which is, you're a former park ranger. How has that informed your governance? How does that experience?
Yeah. Well, it's just managing wildlife of a different kind, I guess, maybe.
Where were you? What park were you at?
So I was at two. I was at Bryce Canyon in Utah and Mount Rainier in Washington. And then I did all my graduate research out in the Olympics, which is Olympic National Park. So actually all three of those, but yeah,
I saw you into UW. So as a duck myself, I always get that.
Yeah. I know. And I have my youngest daughter is graduating in June in natural resources management. She's going to be a park ranger this summer at Glacier National Park.
That's
so
awesome.
She's going off, chip off the old block,
awesome.
I guess. But
All right. Well, I have a steakhouse for her to go to that my mom's best friend is the bartender. So get that too.
oh, okay. I will tell her.
We'll take care of it.
I think to your point though, Larry, is it's all visitor services, right? And it's all taking care of people, making sure they're having the best experience of their life, and when they're not having a good experience, how can you make it better? And also, ensuring that folks are informed. I was an interpreter, which means, you do all the nature programs and all that stuff. So making sure you can take very technical stuff down to a level that people can understand and be interested in and make it exciting. I think storytelling, that's a good skill to hone when you're a park ranger.
I have one question.
That's terrific.
How many times have you had to take a picture in front of the world's largest paper cup? Is that a thing that you have to do all the time?
I didn't know this. You have the world's
Listen,
largest
Larry, I did
paper
my
cup?
research, okay? I don't know about you. I'm not the journalist on this call, but
No, you put me to shame.
We do. We have, and well, isn't she in like the paper capital of the world there in Scranton?
Dunder Mifflin. I often introduce myself as the CEO of Dunder Mifflin. Great applause. We lean all the way in with the office.
Yes, we do have the largest paper cup in the world, but now it's a different company than it used to be. So now it's something else, but it's still there. It's there, so you can go see it.
And it's good when things put you on the map, right? You got to differentiate.
Yeah. I'd rather that
That's
than
awesome.
some other things. So
Well, this has been great. I can't thank you both enough. Mayor Reed had to bolt, but this is going to be wonderful. I can't thank you both enough, both for your appearance today, but also your service. We don't thank elected officials for serving, which why anyone would is sort of. You have much more courage than I. That I'm happy to be the critic. It's so much easier. So thank you both so much.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and it's always good to see my friend Paige, especially coming on the tails of her win this week. I'm so proud of you, Paige, and I know you're just doing such great work. You're such an inspiration to all of us too. So
thank you. You are as well. I'm so blown away by the level of investment. I knew that you had gotten some new hubs for corporate hubs and manufacturing plants, but to hear you enumerate them like that is incredible. So maybe we can have a toast in Tampa.
Sounds good. Love that.
Thank you both. And Paige, I'll see you next week.
I look forward to it.
Well, that's it for this episode of How to Really Run a City. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tell your friends about us. We really want to widen the conversation because by 2050, something like 2/3 of the world will live in cities. As cities go, so goes the nation, and so goes the world. For now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.